Please listen to the disclaimer at the end of this podcast.
Buenos dias and good morning. Welcome to NAA Cafecito, Our Stories, a podcast where we like to hear the journey, professional and personal, of NAA members and members of the larger asset management community and ecosystem. My name is Gerson Guzman. Today we're doing this podcast from San Juan, Puerto Rico, although the venue is not as sunny as we'd like, but here we are in the beautiful Condado Vanderbilt during the NAA International Symposium. My day job is founder and managing partner of Cepa Capital Partners, but today I'm working for AJ, and I have the honor of interviewing and having a cafecito with Anilu Vazquez-Ubarri, partner and COO of TPG. Anilu, gracias.
Hola.
Thank you. Hola, hola. Podemos hacer un poco en español también.
Sí, sí.
Bueno, look, this is a intimate conversation over a little cafecito, just trying to hear your personal and professional story. So let's start with the personal. I made a comment yesterday on stage that when we started this symposium, to plan the symposium, we wanted to make sure that we brought back the sons and daughters of Puerto Rico. Because those of you in asset management, man, you guys have punched above your weight in here. So we've had a lot of native sons and daughters. It's my pleasure to have this conversation with you. So you're Puerto Riqueña. Walk us through the personal story.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's always an honor to be with NAA, but it's very special to be able to do this here in Puerto Rico, where not only I was born, but I grew up here. And you're right that there's a good group of us
there is
that have managed to spurs our way into some very important roles, I think, and I think I'm particularly proud of having them in that circle and cheering for them. But here at NAA, it's just great to see the diversity of the Latin American impact that we can have and be with great partners on the LP side, GPs, and really both celebrate but push ourselves forward. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're very happy to have you here, and thank you so much for the time to be on stage and to sit here with me today. You are a partner and COO of TPG, one of the most accomplished asset management firms out there. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to that role? And then we'll talk about the role itself.
Yeah, so I mean, if you take it all the way back, I credit my parents a lot, who were not in this industry at all. They're physicians, both of them, but always had, for my sister and for myself, a high premium on education.
Yeah.
And also just, really never limited us in what we could accomplish. So, I grew up with them, with my sister and my great-grandmother, who was an excellent role model for me as well. So that was the foundation, a very loving family where, a lot could be accomplished if you said, to do a lot of hard work. I then went to Princeton, which was a very different environment.
A little colder in the winter.
A little colder. And similarly, there had, my world expanded and opened. And I would say in a couple of ways. One, I had fabulous roommates that I'm still very close to. Okay. They're like my sisters to me.
Wonderful.
And just learning from their different experiences really exposed me immediately to a very different world. I was the only Latina.
I was going to ask.
And there were 6 of us. And so actually they ended up coming to Puerto Rico quite a bit.
I bet.
For spring break and really embracing the culture.
Probably around for winter break more than...
Definitely. And that became very special because I felt very included. But at the same time, I think that if you asked any of them, feel that they were enriched by getting to know something very different. I met my husband, who's also Puerto Rican, when I was in college, and actually we got married when I was...
He's also a Princeton grad?
He's also Princeton grad, a year ahead of me, and we got married when I was a senior in college.
Okay.
And so that was also, something very special of my experience there. But the other thing that it did is that Princeton obviously was very close to New York City, and it really exposed me to another part of being Puerto Rican, and really getting to know the culture of Puerto Ricans in the U.S., particularly in the tri-state area. And I actually ended up writing my thesis on that population in the 1900s to the 1930s.
Okay.
So I think I became a more well-rounded Puerto Rican as a result of that. But then from there, you know, I ended up going to law school. My husband and I actually ended up going both to Fordham in New York City. I went into corporate law.
Okay.
So I became basically did a lot of M&A and transactional work, but with a focus on executive compensation and employee benefits.
Okay.
And that actually, many years later, has come to bear in terms of experience, some things that we have been doing on the TPG side, on IPO, our own IPO. And, you know, I practiced law for a number of years. I had my oldest while I was an associate, which was very uncommon back then, and went back full time after having him. And so learned a lot about, you know, prioritizing, reprioritizing, balancing.
I'll tell you, no one's a harder worker than a working mom, because you have to manage your time effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, and you know, I think that I really admire people that stay home with their kids. I had seen my mom be a working mom. So in a way, that was very instinctive to me, even though she was in a very different field. And then from there, I landed at Goldman in 2007.
Okay.
And 2008 happened. So
I was going to say, perfect timing.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I missed out on the renovation of the cafeteria at my high school. And then I got to Goldman in 2007. So I think there's like maybe a theme here. Maybe it's about me.
No. TPG's been doing great since you arrived. So I don't think there's a trend.
I'll take it. Yeah, and you know, it was a change of career from me. I had decided that I didn't want to be a practicing lawyer anymore, and I went into what Goldman calls human capital, which is HR, and I had no idea of like the breadth of what that really meant at the time.
Human capital at Goldman's something else. Great training ground.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so, you know, I was there 12 years.
Okay.
Did, I think, anywhere between 4 or 5 different jobs, depending on how you count. I spent time in short-term assignments in Japan. I went to Brazil also on short-term assignment and had the opportunity to have global teams. So, you know, a very comprehensive experience. And I had a lot of mentorship. That's where I really learned, you know, what that could look like and how it can really change your career trajectory.
Absolutely. So if I have my facts straight, I think you joined TPG in 2018. So you joined the firm. You ultimately became COO in 2023. Talk to us about the role and what you do at the organization.
Yeah, I mean, TPG is a very special place because despite the fact that, as you described it, we're privileged enough to work in, you know, a very successful firm that has been around for close to 35 years and has been, you know, a presence in the industry and a differentiator, has managed to conserve its culture, and yes, its growth, and it is one of the big players. And at the same time, there's a culture of respect, of supporting one another, and a lot of teamwork. And in that setting is where I go from being the Chief Human Resources Officer to getting myself involved in a number of other things, just because there was opportunity, and evolved my role to be the Chief Operating Officer. And so in that role, I oversee all of our operational functions, with a view of not only, you know, enabling our current strategy, but actually pushing ourselves to build the TPG of the future. So we're very focused on our organic growth. We also have done a couple of inorganic growth things, and I've been able to be involved in them. And again, that's where the background in legal and HR kind of come together, as well as the business strategy. So I've been very fortunate. I've learned a lot, and I feel like, I got there, as you said, at the right time.
Yeah.
The firm was going through an inflection point that was really not about necessarily being public, not about necessarily being the biggest firm, but really accelerating what we can do and the impact that we can have. And that did lead us to us deciding to go public, and also to make a series of acquisitions to transform ourselves into an IELTS firm.
Wow. Lots has happened in at least from 23 to 25. The industry itself is changing, and you're sitting in that seat, seeing that. I think for our audience members, it would be great if you can bring the personal and professional together to the current role and talk about how your background has influenced how you execute as the COO. And I'll also add that your bio will be posted with the podcast, so I'm not going to sit here for 20 minutes reading your bio, but you don't just hold those titles. You also have other responsibilities at the firm. If you can expand on that as well.
Yeah, so in terms of the background, I grew up, with a philosophy. My parents were very big believers that if you see a napkin on the floor, you should pick it up.
Amen.
And act as an owner.
Yeah.
And that philosophy has really helped me, because I think that a lot of the part why I had different roles at Goldman and different roles at TPG has been because I've not been limited by necessarily the, traditional definition of whatever role I've had. But if something needs to be done, I'm always happy to be part of the team that helps work on it. And that has really, given me a lot of opportunity. And by the way, a lot of things that I have, volunteered myself to do, no one else wanted to do. And I remember that at Goldman, it was, things that people didn't find very sexy that actually ended up really transforming my career.
Yeah.
And so the same thing I would say at TPG. It's a place where opportunity abounds, and we have a lot going on. It's a very entrepreneurial firm, and therefore, if you're willing and able, people will call you to participate in things. So yeah, my experience in terms of evolving that role and just thinking about like my background, I would trace it back to one, anything is possible, and second, leave it better than you found it, and pick up the napkin from the floor.
I'd like to say pick up the pencil, do the work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. So you touched on mentorship. And can you tell us about a mentor along the way that really kind of influenced you, and whose mentorship maybe and that advice you carry through today?
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to the very beginning. I think that my great-grandmother was a great mentor to me, my parents, my swimming coach. We talked on the stage that I was on the Puerto Rico national swimming team. And always throughout my career, I've been lucky enough to have people that have taken an interest in me. Most of the time, those relationships have come from working very closely with someone on a project. And I've been very fortunate. I think that a lot of the best things that happened to me in my career were not my idea. And in fact, I was a little bit resistant to it in terms of where to go. But I took the advice of those mentors, and they clearly knew something about the opportunity and maybe even about me that I didn't understand as clearly. I've had a combination of mentors. Some have come from the Hispanic community, Puerto Ricans. Other are completely different background-wise. And I've benefited from both. And I always say to people, those that have looked very different from me have really challenged me to think of myself out of the box.
Right.
And while I may not be able to do it exactly how they would do it or how they're suggesting that I do it, it definitely gets me thinking and has pushed me forward to try things and believe in myself, that I can do it and work hard, but kind of get to it in a way that you can enjoy it, because we do so much.
That's right.
And these jobs that we have are so demanding.
Yeah.
And
it's a 24/7 role.
Right. And so you have to, at least for me, it's really important that you're enjoying the journey as much as when you get to whatever goal you may have.
Yeah, look, if you don't like what you're doing,
Yeah, it's
right,
really hard.
You're just going to be absolutely miserable doing it. Well, thank you for sharing that. During your comments about the role at TPG and what's transpired over those years since you joined in 2018, you used the word impact. And one of the initiatives that TPG recently launched is TPG Next, and you're a co-founder of that. Very relevant to our audience for the podcast Cafecito.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that and what you all are looking to accomplish?
Yeah, TPG Next is our seeding and staking strategy at TPG. We seed, managers that can be anywhere from pre-launch, so they might still be at their firm, and thinking about starting their own GP, all the way to third type fund. We also do staking, so that would be for more mature firms that maybe want to expand into a new strategy, or they're looking for liquidity. It might be a succession planning type of situation, or they're just simply wanting to grow with the support of strategic partner. We provide a couple of things as part of our partnership. One of them is working capital. So starting a firm, as you know, is extremely difficult for many reasons. And one of them that people don't talk as much about is how expensive it is to even just get in business.
Yes.
And so if you are not independently wealthy,
you might trigger some post-traumatic stress here, please.
And actually, we'll talk about that because I think that's a very important part of what hopefully we do. So working capital, we also come in as an LP. And the most differentiated part and where we think we earn our fees is delivering all of TPG. So our experience, we are the only strategy of our kind that resides within a GP itself.
That's right. I hadn't thought of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have made a lot of great bets and been successful at them, but also just very practical. HR, communications, finance, fundraising, making warm introductions to LPs that may be in our network, but importantly, being references to them because we do a very exhaustive diligence in these managers. So we spent a lot of time with their other LPs explaining why we selected them, but also just doing mock, practice runs on how they're going to go to an institutional LP, which is very different from maybe what they were doing. And at the heart of it is that all of these people that we're talking to are excellent and proven investors, but they have not built a firm before. Right. And even those that have maybe built a firm before, we still have a lot of conversations because they say to us, there was not a TPG Next when I was doing it. And I know I don't know what I don't know. Yeah. And they're coming in. One of our investments, they are on their second fund. And the reason why they came to us was for all the strategic partnership. They had actually gotten through that first fund. And so that's the value that we bring. We do that in very close partnership. I mean, this is like active partnership. And not only the deal team is involved, pre-transaction, but obviously they become part of our portfolio. That's where all the work really goes. But myself personally, our CEO, John Wenko-Reed, and all of our investment committee, which is composed of people that either have been entrepreneurs themselves, Steve Alice and Maya Carango, or also were in that, GP seat. And so it's a collection of experiences. And I would say the last thing is then the whole of TPG comes into play. All of our colleagues on the investing side help us on the diligence and the underwriting. They bring sector expertise, and they are the ones that are, going back and forth once we make the investments with people, just doing what investors do, brainstorming,
I mean, just
comparing
talking,
notes, just talking.
Access to that knowledge.
Because it's lonely also, right? So, and it's stressful. So that is at their disposal.
Stressful?
A little bit, right?
Just a little bit.
So, what we still haven't developed like psychological services.
Okay.
But it's coming. But, really for them to feel that support and that they're just a phone call away. They don't.
Right.
There's not a bunch of bureaucracy. Once they are part of our portfolio, literally all of TPG is part of their ecosystem, and that goes for all the other functions at the firm. And I have to say, this is why I always say this. TPG Next could only exist at TPG.
Yep.
Because this is not us forcing people to do this. They think there's a benefit for them as investors. Our next GPs are seeing deals and situations that they're not seeing.
Yeah.
They have different networks. But they believe also in the importance of building these GPs. And so our colleagues are a great example of how TPG we're just different. It's a different experience to work there, and hopefully our GPs in Next feel the same way.
That's wonderful. I mean, the marvelous access to the resources, the entire organization. The first thing that came to my mind, though, is who does the GP first call when they want to access that? So the team is there to mentor them and provide them access to the organization.
Yeah, the deal team, but we said, what you could call little councils.
Okay.
We identified based on their strategy who on the investing side may be the right people. As I said, they might be meeting these people as early as in our early stages of meeting the GPs, and they stay connected. And then we do strategy sessions for them, and this become their core group of people that are there to work with them. So yes, the deal team is extremely important and involved, but there is really an expanded TPG family.
That's great. In the early comments, you said we wanted to circle back around to the cost or the working capital of starting a firm. I would love to get your...
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of things that if you haven't built a firm before, you are not maybe prioritizing as the things to get right. But the reality is that there's a co-invest, there's a GP commitment, and then if you want to have a team, you have to pay them. Because you, as a founder, may not be getting paid, but you have to attract these people.
Right.
And obviously, there are different structures and how to do that, and incentives, and people that are jumping in to do something entrepreneurial like that know that they have to have a long-term view of it. But nevertheless,
it's a different comp package, it's a compensation package.
But it's a comp package. So, there are all kinds of advisors. You have to hire lawyers in order to have your documents. LPs really, for very good reasons, have very strict requirements in terms of what they will look at, even to start a conversation. So I think that there's all that, type of costs associated with getting yourself in business, even before you actually have raised any capital to actually deploy. And again, a lot of our GPs, the reason why they even started thinking about going independent is because they love to invest. And so it's how quickly can you accelerate their path to investing and deploying the capital while managing the build out of their firm. And I would say the other thing where we tend to spend a lot of time with our GPs is culture. This is their baby. They have an opportunity. They've seen things that they like and they don't like about wherever they came from, and how they're going to shape that and how they're going to articulate it. And that has been a big part of TPG. We see culture as strategy, and it's everything that we do goes through the lens of who do we want to be. Who do we want to be to our partners, to our investors, to our employees, and just to our full ecosystem, in private wealth. Why would people individuals would give us their money?
Right.
And I think that with that, there's a huge, responsibility for transparency and feeling on the hook to do right by your investors and those that trust you. And we feel the same way in that relationship with our next GPs. They're entrusting their firm partly in our hands, and we feel that we owe it to them to make them feel proud that they made that decision.
Wonderful. I want to bring this all together. Your background as a Puerto Rican, now being the CEO of this amazing organization. You've received great advice along the way, I am certain. What is the single best piece or a strong piece of advice that you received along the way that if you were talking to someone, a young Puerto Riqueña who is maybe mid-stage in her career, what advice would you impart based on what you've heard and what you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of great advice over the years, but I think probably the one that resonates the most is don't think that that's the last bite at the apple.
Okay.
Many of us are so driven, and at the same time, coming from a Hispanic background, very respectful and very differential.
Yes.
And sometimes it may not feel comfortable to ask for what you want or push for that opportunity.
Or to make your accomplishments known.
Or to definitely.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're uncomfortable with any of those things, don't think that you only have one bite to do it. If you want that other opportunity and you didn't have the courage in that moment to say it to your boss or to a mentor, go back at it. Don't let go of that desire. Just find your own comfortable way to do that. And for me, I give a lot of advice to people and I encourage people to do a lot of things that sometimes I have to really talk myself into. And so I've learned that it's easier for me if I don't put the pressure of there's only one opportunity for you to do that. And I think that the other thing that I've carried with me is just be true to yourself. I think that when people talk to me or talk about me, I think that they know that I'm going to tell them the truth and I'm going to tell it to them in their face. I'm not going to go behind their back. Yeah. And sometimes that's hard for people because sometimes I'm telling them things that they really don't want to hear or they really actually don't agree with. But I really do it with the best interest at hand. And also because people have done that for me. And man, it's hard when someone kind of goes into that weakness. Yeah. And deep down inside, that that's something you need to work on. But if someone takes the time to give you that advice and you're able to manage it so that you don't get destroyed by it, but that you can move forward, I feel that that's the nexus of success. And so I think that's the combination of, be open to feedback and be able to recover from it, but also just be true to yourself. And do it your own way. No,
that's wonderful advice. And sometimes it's uncomfortable when you receive feedback like that. You got to take a step back. I say let it swirl.
Yep.
Let it marinate a little bit.
Let it marinate.
Yeah, excellent. Well, you've been very generous with your time to us, the organization, this Cafecito. So to wrap up, we're going to have a little fun. Okay. We have a lightning round of choices. I think I might know your preferences based on some earlier conversations, but we're going to do an elimination round here, so bear with me. Ricky Martin or Mark Anthony?
Mark Anthony.
Okay, now we go to the finals. Mark Anthony or Bad Bunny?
Mark Anthony.
All right. You told me your son loves Bad Bunny, so don't show him the video.
I do too, but maybe Bad Bunny should record song with Mark Anthony because Bad Bunny loves Mark Anthony too, right? Yeah. They closed the residency together. So I think I'm in safe grounds with Bad Bunny if I say Mark Anthony.
Perfect. No. All right. And so the last question here: salsa or bachata?
Salsa.
Salsa. Anilu, muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much for your time today.
Muchas gracias.
And to our audience watching or listening, muchas gracias. Thank you for joining us for this Cafecito. Please share and like this video for anyone that could just learn from such an accomplished individual and everything she has done and continues to do at TPG and for our community. And that's it for today. Hasta luego.
This podcast should not be copied, distributed, published, or reproduced in whole or in part. The information contained in this podcast does not constitute a recommendation from the New America Alliance, the host, or guests to any listener. The terms NAA or New American Alliance may refer to any one or more entities associated with the NAA. Neither the NAA, host, or guests, nor any of their respective affiliates or employers make any representation or warranty as to the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information contained in this podcast.